Welcome to Full Speed Ahead. I'm Craig Fuller here with Kendra Phillips, the CTO and Vice President of New Products for Ryder System. Kendra, how are you today?
Hi, good morning. I'm well. How are you?
Doing great. So lots happening, innovation in the space. You have worked in every part of the overall supply chain, but you've really been focused on the technology and innovation for Ryder. Ryder's a storied name around transportation and then beyond. I'm curious, as you think about innovation, why did Ryder decide that this was something that they wanted to lead?
Yes, it's actually really important to us at Ryder. We're an almost 90-year-old company, and we've been in the supply chain and logistics space for a long time. And it would be very easy for us to say, hey, we know what we're doing, we're experts, and kind of look the other way. But the truth is, our industry is being disrupted, and there's a lot of technology coming out. And with our breadth of industries that we service, our breadth of services, we're a great foundation for almost all new tech in the industry. So we've really spent a lot of time investing in this area. We started Ryder Ventures, which is a corporate venture fund, really looking and targeting early stage startups and investing in them and helping them come to fruition through the power of Ryder. So we're really excited about that.
Now, Ryder has dedicated $50 million of venture capital resources towards early stage startups. Tell me a little bit about the ideal investment size. What are you guys looking for as you underwrite investments?
Yeah, great question. Our ideal investment size is around $1 million. We'll do less, we'll do more, but that's really what we're looking for in a seed or a Series A round.
Are you guys hoping to lead those rounds, or is it participating with other venture capital firms that may take the lead?
So far we've been more of the participants. I think as we get our feet wet a little bit further, we'd certainly be looking to lead some of those rounds. That's an exciting area for us. But right now we're being a little careful. We want to make sure we learn, we grow. We're very specific with what we do with our money. And what's really important to us is what space is that startup targeting, right? Being experts in the industry, we know where the pain points are. We know where our customers struggle. We know where we struggle, where our partners struggle. So we're really looking for startups who are coming into an area that's a pain point and addressing it in a way that's very different, that's new, that honestly we wouldn't have thought of, right? That's what gets us excited. So when we find that right target area and we find a team that we think is focused appropriately, they've got a good strategy, a good game plan, good partners, that's when we'll put our money behind them. But most important is what can Ryder bring to them as well. So we're looking to really partner with these startups and be a feeding ground for them. So we want them to pilot with us. We want to use their technology, work with them, and really help them prove their business case through Ryder, right? So if they're out there and they say, hey, I've got a great plan for addressing the driver shortage. Okay, well, let's try it out. Let's see how it works. Or if there's another area they're addressing, let them come to Ryder, work with us, use our expertise, our industry knowledge, and really prove that their product will work and will make a difference and have an impact. And when we see that happening, that's when we'll invest.
Peter, have you guys made any investments to date? And if so, how many?
We have. So we only recently announced Ryder Ventures. It really just became solidified over the past few months. But this has been something we've been working on for years in a less formal manner. So about 3 or 4 years ago, our leadership team got together and said, hey, we really want to focus on technology. We really want to be leaders in technology. And so we started partnering with accelerators, VC firms. Pre-COVID, I myself spent a lot of time out in Silicon Valley. I love hearing pitches. So we've made a few investments over the past few years, about 4. And we just recently are making one. I can't yet announce it, but we have one happening right now. Actually, paperwork will probably get signed today. So it's exciting. We're pre-Ryder Ventures, we were doing it in a less formal way. Now it's a very formalized process, and we want to hear from startups, right? We want them to come to us, make their pitch, and if we think there's something there, we'll actively engage.
Now, a lot of founders talk about corporate venture capital firms and they have a mixed record. What, in terms of where Ryder's positioning, how do you guys think that Ryder is going to be helpful to the founders and the companies behind them, versus the counter argument is that this is a way for corporates to sort of dip their toe in, but they're not really committed to making investments that help the founders out?
Yeah, I think it's actually extremely important, and I think that's something that founders really need to try to vet before they do partner with different corporate ventures. And let me expand on that. So with Ryder, we set up Ryder Ventures to be very specific. So you come to us, you make a pitch, we think it's a solid idea in a solid place. We're going to bring you into the fold, and like I said, let you pilot, let you try it out in our company. And what's happened in the past, for example, we've tried it in one area and it didn't work. But we've said, hey, we think there's something here, right? We still believe in this idea. Maybe we're just in the wrong place, right? We're in the wrong industry or we're in the wrong service. And so we've moved it and we've tried it somewhere else. And we've actually had huge success doing that. So the startup that we are investing in currently, that was the case. We worked with them about 6 months in one place. Didn't really work. We moved it to a different focus area and we've seen amazing results. So I say that because you do have to have a company that's really committed to your product, to what you're doing, and be willing to experiment with you. What I think could be detrimental, what I've seen and where we've chosen not to invest when we're seeing it, is a startup where they've got a great idea, maybe they have great technology, but they're partnered with larger corporations who are pulling them, right? They want that startup's tech in a certain piece of their business, and they're asking that startup to really build it just to meet the need of that business. That's not in the best interest of the startup. That's really changing their product to meet the need of the corporation, and I think that's when you can run into some real big issues, and in the end, it could be pretty detrimental. So I do think as a startup, as a founder, you have to be careful who you're partnering with and ensure that their intentions are to help grow your business, not just to meet their own internal needs.
Yeah, I've seen it. We've got corporate investors that are formalized. So Prologis, who I know you know the folks at Prologis Ventures, Hearst Ventures, but they run it as a institutional, and it's all about returns. They certainly understand the underwriting criteria when it comes to underwriting the business, but ultimately they're about returns before they're about their self-interest. And we've had opportunities to take capital from other strategics. But when you get into the term sheets and you start to define what that relationship looks like, they're very pro their company and less helpful to us. Things like right of first refusal, right to own the technology, just a lot of stuff that becomes very onerous for founders and frankly, not in the interest of the business.
Right, exactly. And I've seen that as well. And I've seen startups where when you're talking to them, again, I get really excited about the area of the industry they're focused on. But then I start seeing how they're being pulled in so many different directions by different corporations that they're partnering with, and it's really eating away at the strategic value of what they're trying to do. So that's something that we really look out. We try to stay away from. Our goal is really to do exactly what you said, right? We want to partner with you. We want to help you grow. We want to help use Ryder to help you grow. But in the end, we're looking for that financial return.
So Ryder's got a huge infrastructure, a large organization with a very diverse set of businesses. As you think about how founders can plug into the Ryder system, what are the opportunities that are most desirable at this stage? What are you guys most excited about?
Yeah, for us, there's a few focus areas that are very strategic and important to us. And we've had them now for about 4 to 5 years. We continue to focus in those areas. So the first is e-commerce. Luckily, it certainly helped us through the pandemic. We've been focused on that. We've made some acquisitions in that area. We've been targeting some startups in that area as well. Obviously, a huge place of momentum for the industry and something Ryder's been really focused on growing. Another place for us is electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. So again, we have very strategic partnerships there. And really think that those, honestly, I think autonomous is going to change the industry drastically. So really looking at what's the impact of those to come and how do we position ourselves now so that we're ready to take advantage of that and bring that value to our customers when it's here. And then the fourth area that we've been really focused on is digitizing the supply chain and data analytics. So We've done that through our product Ryder Share. And then we have an entire data scientist organization behind us really helping to mine that data and bring it to the forefront.
There's been a lot of action in the visibility and transparency industry or segment of the industry over the last couple of years. It became very important during the COVID crisis for supply chain professionals and organizations to know where their products were, what was in inventory, what was moving through their system. You guys have rolled out a product. How is it different and differentiated versus some of the other transparency and visibility players that are out there?
Yeah, like you said, everyone has a visibility platform. Ours is Ryder Share. We launched it formally in May this year, but we're really proud of it. We built Ryder Share a little bit differently than our foundation for it was a little different than some of the other products. We really built it to bring value to our customers who are shippers. We didn't bring it to feed Ryder with freight. So we built it from a different perspective, and we're seeing that play out now in tremendous value for our customers. So when you speak of the pandemic and how important that was, we have a customer, Do It Best, whose volume went up by 40% when it hit. And they will be very vocal that they would not have been able to manage that without Ryder Share for all the reasons that you just said, right? They used to have a very steady supply chain and people knew what to expect. And obviously COVID threw that out the window, and through the visibility of Ryder Share and a lot of the notification and collaboration features within the platform, not only was Do It Best able to manage that, but they were able to bring that value to their customers as well. So that was very beneficial. Some of the other things we're seeing in the platform is we have a recent deal that we won in the automotive space. The customer wants they produce the vehicles. They want to give their dealers visibility throughout the entire supply chain. So the moment the vehicle leaves a production line, through a DC, through a cross dock, on common carriers, on a dedicated fleet, to the point of the dealership. And they want to do that at the VIN level. Through Ryder Share, we're going to be able to do that. So we'll be delivering that to the customer here at the beginning of 2021, and we're really excited about that. Before it was a black box, now they're going to have complete transparency and visibility, and their customers will know where their order is at every moment in time. Another example of, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I would say I'll give my final one. My other example of where we're seeing differentiated value is we have a wine and alcohol distributor who's a customer. And we're distributing to their, is it a wine store, a liquor store, a catering company, a restaurant, right? That's what we're delivering. When our drivers get there, if there's an issue, overage, shortage, or damage, we're immediately able to document that and instantly send a notification to the salesperson in charge of that location. And that salesperson can call the driver before the driver leaves that stop and actually intervene if there's a problem. So let's say that there's a wedding on a Saturday and we were short some liquor in the delivery. That's obviously a very important item, right? At that point in time, the salesperson can call and tell our driver, hey, pull some liquor off a different stop later on. We need to make sure we fulfill this order in full because it's a very important event. So we're giving them that ability to react to exceptions in the supply chain at the moment versus waiting or finding out later and trying to fix the problem after the fact. So it's really exciting. We're very proud of what Ryder Share is delivering.
Now, I spent a lot of time studying blue oceans versus red oceans and what's happening. Being a VC-backed company and being a startup, we spent a lot of time in the blue ocean sort of charting new paths, but we also cover an industry such as freight movement, which is one of the reddest oceans there is. As you think about Ryder, where do you guys consider yourself, and is it really these investments that you're making to chart new blue oceans, or is it to be more optimized in the red ocean so that you guys can be far more efficient?
Yeah, I love that question. It's a really big and important discussion item within Ryder, actually, because being such an old company, we could find ourselves stuck in our old ways, and we can't let that happen. So I think our leadership team has been very thoughtful and very pointed. We are focused on new tech. So we are focused on what is going to change the industry and actually change the operating model of the industry. Of course, efficiencies to the current operating model is always welcome and very important. I don't want to pretend that that's not, it is. But when we're going to put our dollars behind something, we're looking for something that is literally a new way of operating. It's going to disrupt the current models, because that's what we think it's coming. I mean, you see it today, right? It's here, and we want to make sure that that is really essential to where we're putting our money.
Kendra, there's been a lot of obviously 2020 has been a huge year, but in recent weeks particularly, and really for the last 6 months, the stock market has been on fire. The investments that have gone into earlier stage startups in supply chain have also really accelerated. We're up something like 60% year over year in terms of investments. $52 billion have been invested in supply chain. Some will argue that this is a bubble, that the businesses that are being underwritten, whether they're digital brokers or just across the whole ecosystem, that's inflated and the bubble's going to burst. Others will argue that we're just at the start. That's certainly my thesis. Where do you sit?
Yeah, so I think there's twofold. I absolutely agree we're just at the start. I think the pandemic really brought a light to the need in this industry for more efficient supply chain, more visibility, more digitization, reducing the paper and all the handoffs. I think it really showcased that. And so you're seeing that money funnel in now. But that's been a trend that's been happening. And I strongly feel it's going to continue to happen. And that's what I love. I mean, that's what I love about my job. That's what I love about the approach Ryder's taking. I think there is so much change coming. And I think we're going to see it for many, I mean, honestly, probably decades here. Now, whether or not it's a bubble, could it be some sort of a slight inflationary bubble that will, maybe tick down a little bit? Potentially. I mean, that's probably not my area of expertise. But I don't think that we're going to see any sort of slow in the number of startups in this area, the amount of technology coming, and I think we'll continue to see money getting pushed here.
Yeah, supply chain is cool. It's in vogue. In fact, I was watching the vaccine rollout, and it was almost heroic. You see these trucks. You see the FedEx truck, I think, rolled out first, or the UPS truck, and then right behind it, Boyle. Yeah. Transportation, and then they're showing the plane take off. And I had this sort of epiphany being around this industry where it almost felt like D-Day for the virus, our generation's D-Day, but the logistics professionals in industry were the heroes of the day. We were being talked about in a light that I don't remember ever anyone emphasizing how special of an industry that we operate in. I've always known it was special. I suspect you do as well. But it seems like this is our moment.
It is. It's so funny. I'm laughing because after I got my MBA, I came to Ryder, and I remember my father was like, "Supply chain? Why are you going into supply chain?" He's like, "What do you even do?" So I agree. I think it's always been like the unsung heroes behind the scene, right? Making everything happen. And this year has really changed this. And absolutely, this morning, I mean, I like welled up with pride when you see all that happening, right? Because and it will continue as you look at vaccine distribution. I mean, we're going to have to be able to distribute it not just via airplanes to main distribution points, but down to that local level, right? The hospital distribution, the clinic distribution, to CVS's and Walgreens. So when you think of what that's going to take from a supply chain effort and the tracking and monitoring and security aspects, I mean, it's a lot, and it just shows the value of what our industry does.
It's such a complicated, you think about all of the pieces that have to make it work. It's a very complicated industry with so many parties that are touching it, but it works. And this is the thing that, when I hear mainstream media talk about, vaccine, shipageddon, I think is a term that people like to refer to. And I occasionally get asked by media folks if the vaccine is going to cripple the infrastructure logistics industry. And it's not, because we have a very efficient, even though we think and we will argue how inefficient the industry is, and it certainly is, it all works at the end of the day. And it's not the vaccine is a relatively small piece of the overall volume moving through the system, as important as it is. But it's interesting because there seems to be a ton of still ignorance about how sophisticated it is and how dependent and dependable it really is.
I agree. So I agree with everything you just said. I don't think it will cripple the industry by any stretch of the imagination. We're ready for this, right? And again, I think what it will even do, if you look at the technology that's going to be required for the local distribution, so you're going to have security concerns, right? This is a high value product. You've obviously got the temperature requirements that everyone's talked about. You're going to probably be talking about drop trailers at hospitals or football fields or wherever they decide to vaccinate that are going to have to be monitored. You're going to have up to the second tracking of all these items. And when you think about all the technology that's going to come into play, along with the standard logistics, right, along with the asset and the driver and the facility, along with all the standard items, I think it's going to be a great showcase for what this industry can do and for the progress we've made. And I think honestly, I think it will only deepen some of the technology investments because they're really going to be at the forefront of this.
Yeah, for sure. I think the nice thing is you can now, and I talk to a lot of institutional investors, I can now talk about supply chain, and there's a level of understanding of what it is, what it means, and how important it is. It's interesting because you do mention all the technology, whether it's sensors in the containers that are monitoring temperature, chain of custody. Oftentimes, the technology has existed. I mean, there have been sensors for 30 years, 40 years. Well, from the moment that I even knew what supply chain was or freight was, this technology has been proliferating. But it seems like sometimes it's very, very early, and at times it's solutions looking for a problem. The nice thing is we're at a point where that inflection point is upon us, and we're able to take advantage of the technology.
So I also agree with what you just said there. I mean, I remember, I think when I was first at Ryder, it was probably 14 or 15 years ago, we were talking about how do we track pallets, right? And how do you get those sensors on a pallet and track it? But again, it was more of a technology solution looking for a problem, right? And the price point was too high, and there was all sort of challenges to it. And honestly, at that point in time, it wasn't a sophisticated industry that liked technology, right? But we have hit that turning point. We've absolutely hit it, and so it's great to be able to not just leverage what we've had, to have new ideas and new concepts coming to the table, but really to be at the point where we can leverage all that and start to showcase it and bring it to the forefront.
All right, Kendra, here's a question for you. If you can go back 5 years, and you're sitting in 2015, and you can make an investment in a type of category, what would that have been 5 years ago?
Knowing what I know now.
Knowing what you know now, where would you have liked to have written a check 5 years ago?
There's like 10 places in my head. I mean, I think the digital freight broker is the easy answer, right? I think that's the easy one. But I think if I'm going to look at like long-term, real financial growth, I'd probably put it in autonomous. And I'll probably come up with a better answer later on. But I think those are the two that really come to the forefront right now.
So do you think you've missed, looking at where we're at now, do you think you've missed, or we have missed, the opportunity to invest in autonomous? It feels like that's still a very early.
Oh no, yeah. No, I didn't mean to imply that. I think that opportunity is still there. I just think if you were a really early investor, your multiple would be much higher.
Right.
So
well, the challenge there, not a lot of those businesses. I mean, at one point we counted something like 70 companies that were in the levels of the autonomous, and a number of those really either didn't get past their seed round or didn't even raise. And so, the usual suspects, the Waymos and the Two Simples that have done quite well have been successful, but many of those have not.
No, you're right. The risk would have been a lot higher. It would have been a very big unknown for sure. If you knew who to invest in, and you're looking for a big return, that's really what I was coming at it from. But if I'm going to say more of the, probably again, the digital freight broker would have been that not a sure bet now. 5 years ago would have been a nice place to put some money.
Yeah, they certainly had the markup, and they continue to, to grow. I mean, we've seen recent deals in just this past couple of weeks where some of the digital freight brokers have taken on new capital. It's still a very hot space. So last question, Kendra, make a prediction in 5 years. I assume it's going to be autonomous. Do you have anything else that you think is going to proliferate in the next 5 years?
What I spend a lot of time on, and I don't know that I have the right answer, but I'm really curious as to how all of this technology is going to impact the common carrier market. Do you are you able to? There's a lot of players out there kind of increasing the value of the owner operator, right? So do they really enter the space in a different way that enables them to compete more directly with some of the larger carriers in the market? And what does that do to the industry? How do the digital freight brokers kind of expand some of their space? So I'm really curious as to in 5 years and 10 years, where are we going to be with the carrier market? What's that going to look like? And how does that impact shippers' buying expectations? So that's honestly where I don't know the answers, but I spend a lot of time trying to think and strategize as towards how this could play out. Again, so that Ryder can position itself properly to bring that value to our customers. But I think that's an interesting space that we're going to see change a lot over the next 5 years.
It does seem like the advantages of the larger asset-based carriers, particularly in the over-the-road for-hire trucking market, continue to be just attacked by whether it's digital brokers, the 3PL market, and all this innovation, because it makes it such that freight is available to outside of those asset-based carriers. And they struggle enough with recruiting and retaining drivers. We certainly are seeing that now with this capacity crunch that's taking place on top of a lack of driver availability. And so there's a ton of stuff going on. It's certainly an interesting conversation. Well, Kendra, really appreciate your time here. And how can folks reach you? Is LinkedIn the best way to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn's a great way to get in touch with us. If you're a company, a startup, we have Ryder Ventures, so you can certainly look for that. And if you put in an application there, that will make its way to us. And then of course, Ryder.com as well. But I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Well, Kendra, best of luck to you in finishing out this year and as well as in 2021. I think it's going to be a bullish year. Really excited about the future and what the future holds. Thank you so much for coming on today, and we'll be in touch soon.